are doing this incredible.
Well, there's a myriad of things. So I think first of all, we have to go back to writer. You are very well known for teaching skills. Your students speak a whole lot about you.
Miss Nigeria competition.
I said, let's pick them up, let's take them back to Nigeria, and let's teach them a different kind of job.
It's a lovely day, isn't it? And welcome to the show, The Woman. My name is Elizabeth. Now, there is a popular quote that I love so much. It's about the woman, and I'll quote it. It's from Osho. It says, "A woman is one of the most beautiful phenomena in the world, not to be compared with anything else. The woman is the masterpiece of God." That is who we are. God created us at a point where he was more relaxed because he needed to put all of his best into the woman. And little wonder the women can actually move around, occupy, and get things done. A real woman, just like every Nigerian woman, has a lot of potentials. My guest today is one of such. She's conquered her world from the banking industry and to other worlds. I'll let you digest that. Take a break. When I come back, I'll be showcasing the guest. I already gave you a little bit of who my guest is. She was a banker. She is a coach. She is so many things put together. She's one person that I call God's masterpiece because she's not just a woman. She is a Nigerian woman making things happen, changing the world around her everywhere she goes. My guest is Dr. Aisha Adaviruku. Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
I started by saying that you worked in the bank, and when I thought I was going to be able to catch up with you on the banking sector, you kept jumping. And I keep asking, why do bankers move? I don't want to use a very bad word, but they're always jumping from one bank to the other. What's the problem?
Okay, so it's not personally, it's about, contribution for me. Because I worked first with Unity Bank, and then Jai's Bank was a new bank then, and I really wanted to work there because it is a non-interest bank. So I was convinced that my wealth of experience would be valuable in, helping the bank grow. And I delivered. So, one interesting thing was when Sterling Bank was, got their window license for non-interest banking, I saw a message, then my group head, I saw a message he posted on LinkedIn, and I went into his inbox and I said, look, I want to work with your bank. I think I can add value because I love projects. I love starting projects. I love contributing. I love to see them grow. And then, so then the current MD was an ED. He was coming to Abuja, and he said, okay, go have a conversation with him. And I had the conversation, and he was okay with me joining the team. And that was how, I moved from Jai's Bank to Sterling Bank. So this, for me, it's more about contribution and growth. Because once you move, you get, if you are qualified, if the bank finds you qualified, they give you the next level. So it's one of the fastest ways to grow in banking.
I was going to ask that. And then for you too, there is something you're picking, because I believe that every step of the way I walk through in a given day, it's a learning curve for me.
Yes. And one of the reasons why I love projects so much is because for a project to grow, you have to ensure that you train the people you're bringing on board. So we are what we call train the trainer. In all the banks, I have worked as a pioneer staff. The training they give to you is to enable you to train others that would come in. So we have this project where we have trained the trainer, they train us on the software, they train us on the products and services. And this was one of the things I was also doing. I was also training others. At Sterling Bank, for instance, I trained the entire staff of the region on non-interest banking products and services. I also trained Bauchi staff. I trained Kaduna on non-interest banking products and services. So for me, I love knowledge. And this, gave me the platform to actually grow my calling and transition into the knowledge industry.
I trying to check if by any means you read banking and finance, but you read English.
Yes.
English language.
Yes.
What got you interested in banking?
Okay, so, when I graduated, my friend went into banking. And then she said, Aisha, why don't you come into banking? It's interesting. And then she submitted my CV. I went for the interview, and I was given the offer, and I went into banking. So for me, it was more about the influence of my friend. And I found out, funny, I don't like maths. Yes.
But you could count money.
Yes, I could count money. Interestingly enough, when I went into banking, if you're a business development manager, you'd have to learn the numbers. You'd have to know the numbers. You have to crunch the numbers. And this was something I found I grew to love. So from an English literature graduate into crunching numbers.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Perhaps the presentation may have made it easier for you. I don't know, because
training
sometimes in the school we lose interest in mathematics because of the method of teaching. I guess when you get a better method, it becomes easier for you.
You're very correct.
Okay.
When you get somebody that breaks it down for you, something that it's concrete, is applicable to real life, you're able to connect better and use, that to grow your interests and your delivery in that particular field. And that was what happened to me with numbers.
It's okay. But loving it the way you did, I know that you still managed to move up, when your version was high, of course. And I'm wondering, how did you get involved in coaching business? What interest led you back to that?
Okay, so, as a behavioral specialist, I found out that the greatest influences on who we are as an adult comes from our significant emotional experiences during what we call the imprint period, which is from age 0 to 8. So take a person and put them in China and, take them through the Chinese culture. They assimilate all of that culture. Take a person, put them in the African system, and they assimilate and all of that. So for me, some of the greatest influences, with taking this path, there were two major ones. When I was young, one of my friends, her mom, was studying guidance and counseling for her NC, and then she had this script. I could read very early, so I was, I think, about 7 years or thereabouts. She had this script where she wanted to do an intervention for a young person. And she asked, it was during the break period, we went to this school, and then I was reading the script as her client, and she was, reading as the guidance and counselor. And, during that process, I could see the resolution of the client's problem developing. And I picked interest in guidance and counseling, but of course, I didn't understand what it was. Then, there was a time, I was about 10 years, my dad went for an all-women engineering conference, and then he took me along. And I saw these beautiful women dressed gorgeously, speaking very fluent English, speaking about the contribution of women to national development. And I said, wow, that's what I want to do. And these are the influences that have shaped me. So even in banking, my bosses will always call on me to train because they know I love it.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So you began to also take courses, did you?
Yes, I used to take paid courses. I would actually use my leave to go into the classroom and pay for myself to attend those trainings. And the impact was felt on my job. I got a lot of awards, in banking.
Yeah, I'm
to
going
the glory of God.
Yes, and I know that with all of that, you came out and you formed your own a job. That's the Master Coach, the Coaching and Mentoring Hub. And at the moment, I'd like to know what impact have you been able to make on the very young people? Because it's important, like you said, the formative years are very important.
Yes. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. Do you know one of the things we also do is develop specific programs for the young? We have programs that are faith-based. We also have programs like our neuro-linguistic programming training for teenagers. It is to shape their behavior for excellence. And we have been able to train, some individuals in schools. We have been able to train them for some specific skills. We have been able to capture the young ones to start to think about entrepreneurship. How do I contribute? What are my strengths? What are the skills I can leverage to actually start something, no matter how small. And we've been able to do this, with a couple of schools, about 4 schools in Abuja here, for entrepreneurship. Then I have another product we developed. That one is on moral character. We call it social relationship in Islam. We've been able to, deliver it to some schools. And beyond this, I've been able to speak at some school PTAs to parents on how to develop children's self-confidence and self-esteem.
When you talk here, you mentioned
neuro-linguistic programming.
Linguistic, yes. And I'm wondering, what is it? Because neuro is more like medical to me, and linguistic is academic, and you're jamming them together. What does that mean?
So when we talk about neuro-linguistic programming, is the study of the psychology and physiology of excellence. It was founded by some scholars in the USA, and so far worldwide, we have a lot of individuals who are in the change management work who have studied, this course. There are different levels to it. I am a master practitioner and trainer of neuro-linguistic programming. Is basically to teach people how to think better and do better.
Think better, do better. Is it in terms of economic empowerment or generally social?
Personal and professional.
Oh, I know that in bringing about changes in the society, a whole lot of emphasis is placed on the parenting. While you're teaching the children, what is the reaction from the parents? And this reaction, does it also affect your mentees that you're trying to groom to be better?
Yes, I mentioned PTAs. They're a core focus for me because, the family unit is the smallest unit in any society. Any change you want to see should start from the home. Yes, the school plays a role, but if the school is doing its part and the home is not doing its part, there is going to be a disbalance, which is why we love to speak to PTAs, And for this particular course that I told you about, we have parents who come to it basically to learn skills to become better parents. So it is very, very important to carry the family unit along, because whatever excellence you see in society today or dysfunction you see in society today comes from one home. So the more parents are equipped with skills to do better and be better role models for their own children, the better the society will be.
You do have a point there, and I found out again that it's easier for the young people to open up to the likes of you than even to open up to their parents. And I'm wondering, while you talk with them, what really is that pushing factor that keep making the very young derail? I know peer group influence is there.
The greatest factor is peer influence. Now, again, one of the greatest influences to checkmate peer pressure is the kind of upbringing the child had, because it shapes who the child is. Once we have a parent who is able to influence a child, right, the child will think twice before succumbing to peer pressure. Whatever influences whatever character we want the children to have, we must first of all be the role model, and then we must monitor the influences around them. And the family units today is such that it's so fragmented. The presence of the parent in the home is hardly felt, because almost the mother is out of the house, the father is out of the house, they're chasing money to feed the body of the child, but the soul of the child is suffering. And these are some of the things that come into our therapy room. Some of these complaints that come, my parents don't have time for me, they hardly listen to me, they don't love me, they don't show me they love me, and then these children go to seek it outside the home. Because we are emotional beings.
Yes, I sometimes that argument, it does play out. I think it's just excuse for some of them. It's an excuse to do the wrong thing because they hear people say it. But I'm wondering, how best can the parents really influence a child?
By the education you give the child and by the role you play in the child's life. Make that child love you, and then they will think twice about loving somebody else more than you.
That works.
So that's one of the greatest influence. Then another influence that I have noticed with, how children derail these days is the influence of the media, the kind of programs. For instance, if this kind of awareness program now, for parents, for young people, for youths, if they watch it, it may trigger something in them to maybe do more research in terms of, okay, how can I become a better parent? How can I become a better youth that transforms into a better adult that becomes, a good citizen of Nigeria? Rather than, watching somewhere where somebody is smoking and jumping about and doing all sorts of things. So the influence of social media and the media itself is very huge, because the mind just soaks in the environment. There is what we call gestalt. The mind just soaks in the environment. So it's not enough for a parent to be at home. You see, one of the core differences, during when we were growing up and now, is the easy access to social media and social influences. Some parents, they can even be sitting with a child who is watching porn. And they would know.
No.
Because the child has a smartphone. We didn't have access to those kind of things during, when we were growing up. It is that very modeling and, as much as possible, monitoring the environment. The environment consists of the physical space, the other influences, social media, books, and all of that, and the friends that the child moves around with. It is the responsibility of the parent to monitor these three influences.
That works, because growing up, like you mentioned, the mother will be there, maybe doing sewing, cooking, you're helping out one way or the other. You're imbibing that culture, and at the same time, she's watching what you're doing. But correctly said, a lot of us will sit down and the children will be watching whatever they're watching on the phone. We don't. But let me just ask, I always like to know, at what age should we give a child a smartphone?
Do you know that during the COVID, pandemic, during the lockdown, when learning was moved, into the web space, there were children who started to go into bad spaces just because they had access. So when you say at what point, I would say that as a parent, you should, at whatever point, there is a way you can link your Gmail to their Gmail and ensure that you limit you place an age limit on the kind of things that can even pop up on their own devices. So you get to monitor their device. So if you want to give a child a phone, you shouldn't give the child without monitoring and without ensuring that you have connected it to your own Gmail. You can give a child as early as 7, but you must monitor.
True. So I actually believe that parents should not let children go to their bedrooms with the phone. There should be a time where you stop it. If it's 8 o'clock, you stop it. Just like those days when they monitored how we watch TV. And of course, the only TV we watched was the NTA. Somebody told me that if you want your child to grow up well, you should always make sure that the only free TV you have in your house is NTA, because everything is monitored to ensure that children learn right. But then, let me not drag you too much on your workspace and get to see the other side of you. I know that I just saw little kids, your son, and how attentive you were to him. But I'm wondering, with all your job, I'm not sure I want to be a banker, because I feel it won't give me the chance to be the real mom I want to be to my children. But how did you manage that time, and how are you still coping with now?
May God bless my mom. She has returned to her Lord now. My mom will attend PTA meetings. My mom will do school drop-off and pick-ups. So when I was in banking, she was my rock. She is a great woman. She was there for me. And, one of the reasons why I actually transited was to have more time when she fell ill. I transitioned fully into my own business so that I could be there for her. She was ill, and then she returned to her Lord. Then I had my small baby, and, so combined, I felt it was time to actually transition and have time for her and also the little one. This is what, doing business on my own has afforded me. So banking and combining that with raising a family,
it's tough.
It's tough, very tough. But with good support system, it is possible.
I think that's where I always get proud to say I am a Nigerian, I'm African, because the extended family is a big deal for us. I
It
know,
takes a village.
yes, yes, to raise a child, you know.
My
And
sisters, God bless them, they were there too. I've been blessed with very lovely family members.
Now, again, beyond your family, beyond your job, how do you relax?
Oh, I love to read. And I love to go on adventures. I go on excursions, I do hiking, I go to the park, just sit down with family and relax. I hardly watch movies, but once in a while I watch movies. But just give me a good book. I can read inside the market.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, talking about market, I know that this period has not been particularly easy, but we are doing the Salah all the same.
Yes.
Whether or not there is money.
We must
there
do
must
Salah.
So
By the
Baraka the
special grace
Salah.
of God.
Yes, Baraka the Salah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, but then I know that with this change in, things, cost of things in the market, women, we always have a lot of expectations from our husbands. How do you think we should be able to manage as a woman within this period? Should we tear the man apart, or should we find a way to mitigate, to make sure that the family is happy, Salah is made, and we all move on?
There is this saying that a woman is a miracle. We are miracle workers. We can turn one cup of rice into one full pot.
Oh my God.
So, and as a woman, with a good man who provides, you are the support system he needs in these trying times. And families should work together to ensure that we're able to, thrive in spite of the challenges. And we can do it. Nigerians, we're very resilient people. And, we always find a way. Of recent, I was watching a production where the woman was using cucumbers to make stew.
Yes. And I said, I'm not going to try this. I'm so scared.
I'm willing to try it, but
I know
I've not done that yet, but not for Salah. So what can we do, right? Can we do maybe jollof instead of rice and stew? Can we maybe shop as a community and split it? It's easier to. Can we even import maybe from areas where they are cheaper, as a compound? You can come together and find a way to.
We go to the bush markets.
Yes,
Okay.
we even have groups where we do this, buy in bulk and then share. It's cheaper that we go directly to the source. So these are some of the ways that we can mitigate the current prices of food items in the market. And these are some of the ways that I have been using to do that.
But I know as a coach, I know one of your strong points is emotional intelligence. I also need you to speak to not just women, Nigerians generally, on how to be the bigger person this period.
Yeah, so thank you so much for mentioning that. As a Nigerian, we're very resilient and we can become more patient during this period. It's only the person that is living that gets to enjoy life. When we encounter difficulty, like you said earlier, it is for us to pick the lessons from those difficulties and then move on. It is very essential that we practice forgiveness, we practice resilience, we practice optimism, and we stay hopeful, because that is the only thing we have. Psychologically, when you're hopeful, you strengthen what we call your neural pathways, so that whatever you focus on begins to expand for you. You begin to see the good in other people rather than focusing on only, the challenges that they bring to you.
True. When you were talking, you did knock on the door of a quote I like. My father will always tell us that it's the wise man that stays alive to point at the grave of the brave man. Because the brave man will do giddy 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 and they kill you. And then the wise man will run away to come back for another fight later, but then he's always alive. So it's better to be the bigger person, which is the wise man. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and happy Salah.
Thank you.
You have a message for Nigerians this Salah?
Yes, I want to say that you should enjoy the season. It is one of the highlights for us, especially as Muslims, to be happy, to share from our ram, and also to share food, to share joy in the spirit of the season, to forgive each other for whatever wrongs, we may be harboring, and to pray. Pray and pray and pray. This is one of the greatest seasons that as Muslims we believe our prayers are answered. God has promised us. So make lots of prayers and build memories with your family.
It's important. It's a season of sacrifice. And as the Lord accepts our sacrifice, we should also ensure that we live good for it. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been a wonderful time with a wonderful woman, a woman who's moved around industries from English language in ABU to the banking sector to coaching, and a lovely mother as well. Next week, we'll bring you another exciting package. My name again is Elizabeth Abai. See you.